People of the internet, welcome to this video where I tell you not to listen to the people that say if you want to be a penetration tester, you shouldn't at least know how to write a script or code at all, right? I don't think that is true. You will hit a ceiling pretty quickly. So what do I suggest? If you want to be a penetration tester specifically, learn to script and then learn how to build your own tools. How do you learn to script? Learn Python, learn Bash, maybe PowerShell if you use Windows a lot. And then if you want to build tools, two things you could learn. Go. A lot of tools these days are written in Go for efficiency and threading. And then two, learn a low-level programming language. C, Rust, whatever it may be. Those would be the languages you use to build tools, right? So enough of the talking. Let's do an actual demonstration of why learning the basics of Bash, learning some Python, learning some terminal kung fu is good for you. It makes your life efficient and you don't have to do repetitive things and just be slow, right? So let's do that. This past weekend, I was doing a hack the box machine that's called intelligence, and the initial access vector, right? Let's go back to the full screen. The initial access vector for intelligence is downloading a bunch of PDFs, looking through them manually, and then finding a password and then usernames from those PDFs. So if you didn't know how to do this efficiently, this would take you an absolutely long time. As you can see, we are in a folder called PDFs and we do not have any PDFs right now. If we hit ls, if we go to the main site, we can scroll down and you can see that there are two things we could potentially download, right? And if we click the first one, it says announcement document. As you can tell, it is a PDF and it's named using a date. That's the naming convention, right? This is the 1st of January 2020. Pretty bad year for a lot of people, but I digress. And then the second PDF is from the 15th of December 2020, and we know it's December because there's no months after 12, right? So 15 December and 1st of January. So the assumption for this machine is if you see this, you will see the naming convention and you will assume that there are other PDFs you could download, and these PDFs are named just as these are. So going one by one, changing the dates, you know, going 01, 02 to try and download the next PDF will probably be tedious and you get bored, right? You will not be able to do everything from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. That means you potentially have to download 365 PDFs, and on top of that, you're changing these characters manually, right? So if you didn't know the basics of Bash, using your terminal for some kung fu and using your text editor, this would take you a long time. But I will encourage you to learn these things, and hopefully you can learn something from this video. I use a mix of Sublime and my terminal to do all the magic I need to do. Let's show you how to do this. So what we want to do is change, this is the month, right? Let's just confirm that the second part is the month. Just go back. Yes, the second part is the month. So we want numbers that go from 1 to 31, right? Each month, we're going to assume it has 31 days. If it has 28, it doesn't matter. The last 3 days won't exist. So we want numbers that will go from 1 to 31. If we come to our Sublime, right now we have users. We can just delete this. It doesn't matter. We will get there, right? And we have dates here. So what we eventually want to have is something like this. But this is not what we're going to use. We are going to delete that, save it so that you don't think I'm cheating. But we want numbers to go from 1 to 31 here. And what directory are we in? We are not in the PDFs one. Okay, so we want to move the dates file that is behind a directory into this directory, right? Clear. If I can type. Okay, maybe typing isn't as important, but we have a dates file. If we cat the dates, it's empty. What do we want? Numbers 1 to 31 separated by a new line. If we know Bash, we know how to write a loop. For I in what numbers do we want? 1 to 31, right? What do we want to do? Do echo I, right? Basic for loop, basic for loop. You write your numbers and then you want to write that out to this dates file. So if we open dates in Sublime, let's just do that real quick. Forget everything else. We're focusing on the dates. It always puts a new line at the end. Doesn't really matter. You can delete it if you want. So now we have the numbers 1 to 31, which would be the last part of our PDF name, right? We're also going to have to change these. And obviously there's a way to do this a bit more efficiently, but my way was kind of my own. But it doesn't matter, right? I digress. So we have the numbers 1 to 31. What we want now is what? The month of January, so that we do January and then download the PDF for January. and maybe February as well. But before we do that, as you can see here, we need to put the zeros before the single digits so that it's both double digits. And in Sublime, you can hit Shift and then right click your mouse to select a columnar thing. I don't know what it's called, but you can select a column, and then now you can, if you type 0, it puts it on all the columns, which is pretty neat. It saves you a lot of time, and you'll see more of that as we go forward. So what do we want to do next? We have the 1 to 31. We want this part, and so for the month of January, what we want is 01. And like I said, in Sublime, we can select just this first column with nothing in it. We can paste 01. We can put in our hyphen, and now we have that part. So January 1 to 31. Now we can come back here and we can get the rest of the thing. Okay, actually, no, let's not do that yet. Let's just get this part that says 2020, and then we can put everything else before. Here, as you can see, our selection still exists. So if we move sideways, we can still paste, right? Now we have 2020. Now that we have 2020, we can do this for the month of January. And we're going to assume the month of January also has 31 days so that we don't waste time trying to, you know, cut down up to 28 and maybe make a mistake and miss a PDF. This part I had to do manually the month of February and the other months because I don't know another way to do it efficiently. What you do is you select just the 1 and then change it to 2. Now we have February. We can do the same thing for March, and we're going to end at March because this is just for demonstration purposes. We don't want to waste too much of your time, right? You can find a more efficient way to do this. I'm pretty sure IPSEC has a better way to do this if you watch this video, but this is how I did it. Okay, so now we have January 1st up to March 31st. Now we want to add the rest of the URL for each PDF, which would be this part. We can copy that, go back to Sublime. If you Control A, right, in Sublime, Control Shift L to make the selection for each line. Hit home, you go to the beginning of the lines. Control V to paste. Right, now we've pasted everything. If we hit home again, we can type HTTP. And now we have the whole URL, right? Each URL from January 1st to March 31st. So much time saved because you knew a few things that made your life efficient. One, you wrote this janky little for loop, and then you did some Sublime Kung Fu. It's not really Terminal Kung Fu, it's Sublime. But you'll see the Terminal Kung Fu coming in pretty quickly. So because we knew this, now we can download the PDFs. Obviously, in this example, we're not downloading everything, but you'd want to download everything from January 1st to December 31st so that you cover all the ground. But we're only doing a demonstration, so for now, we shall skip that part. Let's clear our terminal, right? Clear. What do we have in here? Just the dates file. Now we want to download each URL in here, but we don't have the PDF ending, which means we won't actually download anything. We want this part. We want to add this part to each URL and go to the end and paste that. Okay, now it's complete. It looks complete, right? Yes, it is complete. So we want to download each item, each PDF, clear again, ls, and we're going to use a one-liner to read the dates file and then feed it to wget. So to do that, we write a while loop, while read, and then our variable is going to be called URL. We want to do something, which is wget each URL in the dates file, which we haven't specified yet. But once we are done, we can feed that and specify the name we want to feed into this while loop. What this is going to do is go through each line in the dates file and download the PDF. While this is running, as you can see, some PDFs exist, some do not. It doesn't matter. What we want are the actual PDFs that exist, and then we can go through them one by one. As you can see, we've downloaded a bunch of PDFs. Cool. This was quick and efficient. We did it in about what? 10 minutes because I was explaining, but if you're doing this yourself, it will take you a lot less. So we have our PDFs, a bunch of them here. We can go through each one and check out the contents. But another thing that came up for me was the fact that this was an external penetration test. So I needed to gather information about the target. The website had a whole page where there were a bunch of PDFs, I think like 12 PDFs that you could download and look at. Because I did this HTB machine where you, one, download PDFs efficiently, two, get usernames from each PDF. I was able to do that and gather more usernames than I would have without having done this machine. If I hadn't done this specific machine this past weekend, I probably wouldn't have done this technique because I didn't remember it, I didn't know it. So now what we want to do is, now that we have PDFs, there's a tool called EXIF tool, which strips the metadata of a file and just spits it out to you. So if we run EXIF tool on this PDF, you can see there's something called the creator. And the assumption is this is an actual user that created a PDF internally, and then it was uploaded to the website. And this came up in the real world. I downloaded 12 PDFs and extracted 12 different usernames from this that I was able to use to password spray, right? Or credential stuff, whatever it is I ended up doing. So if we run EXIF tool on each PDF, now we get to do a bit more terminal kung fu. If you do EXIF tool star, right, it does it for each PDF, but that's not what we want to do. We want to clear a screen. If I can type EXIF tool, and then we want to grep -i creator. The -i just removes the fact that it is case sensitive. So you can just write whatever word you want without worrying about the fact that this part is capital. So grep -i, now we have usernames, right? You could copy these and paste them to a file called users, and then, you know, clean it up with Sublime just like this. Let me not delete actual usernames. Now you have usernames and you cleaned it up really quickly with Sublime. Or you could pipe your output to a tool called awk, and then our separator, or the delimiter we want to use, is the colon, right? Specify the colon as the separator, and if we open our single quote, open our curly brace, we want to print what? Something. What are we printing though? Since the delimiter is the colon, now we have two sides we can print. 1 and 2. 2 columns. 1 and 2. And if we print the second column, this would be the username. So close our curly brace, close our single quote, hit enter. I have a syntax error in my awk, which is $2, the column actually. There we go. Now we have usernames, right? So if we clear our screen again, just so you can see, if we run the same command, we have usernames that we can use. And now we can run this again and then save it to a file called users. This took a lot longer than having done it with Sublime, but it is still a valuable skill you should learn. Learn the basics of scripting languages like Bash. You could have written a quick Python script to do all of this for you, and you would have been on your way, either on your HTB machine or in your real world penetration test. I did this in the real world and it worked for me. I password sprayed, I found valid users, and I was happy. What is the moral of the story? 1, learn terminal kung fu, learn the basics of scripting, and then go deeper. Definitely go deeper. I'm not going to say if you have to. Go deeper, right? Gain knowledge. 3, do some hack the box. For real. Some of these things do come up and the authors have seen it in real life. That's why they make these machines for us, people who don't know anything. So strive to know more, do more HTB, read more, all that funny stuff. If you haven't checked out the newsletter, check it out. I have a good one coming out on Friday. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.